Landlord refuses to let me leave after flood, so I come up with a plan to force them to pay me $5,000. Here's what happened. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk on YouTube and hit the bell for notifications. I had just moved across the country for a job with my girlfriend and found a nice apartment in the suburbs. Building was nice, staff seemed fine, everything seemed in order. After unloading all of our boxes and organizing clothes on the floor, we decided to take a break and grab dinner. In the middle of our meal, I get a call from the building saying we had a fire in our apartment. Later found out the sprinkler pipe burst and triggered a fire alarm. I rushed back to find 4 to 5 inches of water and a massive hole in the ceiling leaking water everywhere. All of my stuff was ruined, including all my clothes, my piano, multiple computers, electronics, everything was gone. I did have renter's insurance, but found myself living out of a hotel until the repairs were made. Fast forward 2 weeks. I'm still living out of a hotel after the building claimed they would have my place fixed in a week. I go in to inspect the place and there's black mold all over the walls and ceilings. Obviously not a livable space even after repairs. I'm communicating with the property manager who keeps brushing me off and saying everything will be fine, it won't take much longer. I mention breaking my lease and she snaps, claiming I have no grounds to do that and they'll sue me if I do. So I work in digital marketing, in real estate actually. I have a follow-up meeting with her boss in an hour and decide to do some research into their URL. Their website name is the full name of the residence, which is pointlessly long. I find the .net available for purchase, as well as multiple iterations of shorter URLs which presumably have higher search volumes. I spend about $50 and buy them all up. Then I call a lawyer buddy and talk to him about how to use language that will avoid sounding like extortion if I make them buy these back. I walk into the meeting and tell the GM that I want out of the lease immediately. I also say that I want my time off work to be compensated for all meals, and given a few $100s for the inconvenience of living out of a hotel for weeks. She literally laughs in my face and tells me I have no legal grounds. That's when the most satisfying moment of my life happens. I slide over the information of all the URLs. She doesn't understand what she's looking at. I tell her, I purchased these domain names for this property. I'm planning on building a website that explains my story and includes links to your local competitors for free on the homepage of the site. I let her know what I do for a living and hand over an SEO audit I pulled for free on the internet of their current site and explain their poor performance. I let her know I'll have this website outperforming them within a matter of months with links to competitive properties and my story at the top. Her face drops and she's white as a ghost. She has me wait while she gets her lawyer on the phone. I explain everything to the lawyer, being very careful with the language I use. We settle on $5,000 for all the websites. No bad reviews ever, and they break the lease. A week later, when the check comes in, I transfer the domains to a very confused IT person who wants to know why I have URLs of their company name. The lesson in all of this? Buy good renter's insurance and don't let jerk landlords push you around. I don't think it's unreasonable for you to want to break a lease when you had a flood in your apartment within a couple of hours of living there. They're taking longer than needed on the repairs, and you don't know when you're going to be able to get back in. Not to mention a bunch of black mold now in your apartment. These are all perfectly legitimate reasons for why someone coming into this building would want to back out. Contract or not, I know I'd be looking to get out of there as quickly as possible. Not exactly coming away with a good first impression on this one, are we? I got carded at the bar not once, not twice, but 3 times. For reference, I'm 24, covered in tattoos and facial piercings, and my boyfriend is 29 and equally as decorated. There's a Mexican bar we go to every once in a while, and this story takes place there. To set the scene, the 3rd floor is 21 plus as it is strictly a bar, but the lower floors are family friendly. As we get to the top of the steps, the doorman asks for IDs, standard. So my boyfriend and I both take out our wallets. It's important to note that we each have an out-of-state license from completely different states. He glances at my boyfriend's and hands it back, takes a look at mine, squints at me, squints at it, tilts it around, scans it, looks at me, and looks back at the ID. Finally, I pipe up and say, "It's real, dude, here," and hand him my government ID with my name and birthday. He scowls at that and hands them both back to me and waves us on. So we both laugh and sit down. I order a sangria and am carded again. No biggie. Waitress takes it, no problem. As she walks away, the doorman comes over and asks to see my ID again. He pulls up a chair to our table as I hand it to him and takes out a book of state IDs. flipping to my home state and comparing the two. At this point, I just start laughing because I get double carded all the time, but this is ridiculous. He hums and haws and hands it back and very sheepishly, as sheepish as a giant bearded doorman can get, explains that it's his first night and he's never had to check IDs before. And the bar 2 doors down got busted for serving minors and he was afraid it was happening to him. Doubly so because we both had out-of-state IDs and mine is pretty uncommon. I told him no problem. He apologized again for coming across as a jerk and thanked us for not taking it personally. I mean, I can't blame the guy for wanting to be good at his job. It's his first day. He's overcompensating a little bit. Our original poster just thought it was funny. There was no real jerk in this situation, I feel. Everyone probably just got a laugh out of it and went on with their night. No biggie. Random stranger accuses my mother of tattooing me as a baby. My mom and my nan told me this a little while ago, and I just remembered it after posting another tale about my youth involving my birthmark. It's shaped like a love heart, and it was so clear that it looked like a stamp until I was 11 when it started to fade. I was barely 5 months old and was sitting on my mother's lap waiting for my turn in the hospital. I have a thyroid condition requiring a blood test every year. My nan said that I was getting irritated being stuck on my 17-year-old mother's lap. Yeah, my mom was young, but she's done a pretty good job raising me. My mom sat me down with some other babies. I was playing with some wooden blocks and I was sitting on my own. I have autism, hence the avoidance of other human beings. Mom says that there was this girl that was a little bit too old to be with the babies and was drinking milk. She dropped the milk right on me, ruining the bumblebee shirt I was wearing. My mom took me and had to take my shirt off because it was soaked. It exposed my birthmark, which was darker than it is now, and I've always had pale skin, so it sticks out like a tail would. I'm being fussy as my mom cleans me, and there's a woman glaring daggers at my mom and my nan. Her husband is busy with their son who's crying because I'm crying. I'll call the lady Ella. Ella. Excuse me. Nan says she sounded like a dolphin. Sorry guys, I don't know how to do a dolphin voice. My nan. I'm sorry, original poster will calm down soon. My mom is very anxious as she's still a very new mom and hasn't met my second mom yet. They aren't in a relationship anymore, but they've been almost sisters since I was 4, and she's still a mom to me. Why have you tattooed her back? That's disgusting. No wonder she's crying so much. Tattoo? My nan looks at my back and sees the love heart. No, that's her birthmark. It looks weird, I know, but it's not a tattoo. Of course it's a tattoo. No baby has a birthmark like that. Other parents are looking at her, including her husband. You're a horrible mother to do that to your baby. No, she's my granddaughter. My mom is close to crying from the embarrassment. I've stopped crying and am looking at the woman as she makes a gasp that sounds like she's choking to death. Nan's words, not mine. If you say a word about my daughter, I'll take a chair leg and shove it so far up your butt that you'll be mistaken for a unicorn. The woman acted like she'd been slapped. When a nurse came in, she was pulled by Ella and Nan overheard her saying that my nan was abusing me and my mom. The nurse looked at us and saw that we had clearly been crying while my nan was visibly furious. Thankfully, her husband had some semblance of sanity in him. Ella's husband. My wife thinks that the young lady has tattooed her granddaughter's back. There's no way that's a birthmark. The nurse. Can you prove it isn't a tattoo? She's looking at my back strangely. My mom. I wouldn't tattoo my baby. My mom finally spoke up. I chose to keep her. I wouldn't do anything that'd take her away. My nan. I'd like to speak to someone over these false accusations. Interestingly, my nan is called Karen. Even non-entitled ones say that line. The nurse looked conflicted. She was facing an increasingly upset grandmother and a snobbish mother who was possibly genuinely concerned for my well-being. She called my doctor to stop what he was doing to come into the waiting room. That sounds like something she shouldn't have done, but my nan guesses that the nurse wanted a witness or something like that. The nurse. Doctor, there's an infant here with a strange mark on her. One of the patients believes it's a tattoo. Is it? Doctor. Hey, original poster. He smiled as he handed his pen to me, which I started waving around as if it was a flag. I like pens. My mom says that he checked my back and rolled his eyes. This is her birthmark. There are so many possible shapes that there can be that it's possible for a birthmark to look like a heart. I'm sorry you two had to go through this. That can't possibly be true. Your heart is in the right place, but you went about it the wrong way. Original poster doesn't have a tattoo, and those two aren't abusing original poster. She's just here for a blood test. Mom is doing a fine job for her age. He's our favorite doctor. Did the woman get kicked out or shunned? No. She just looked embarrassed and said nothing more. Nan and my mom made me have my blood test and bought me a teddy bear for being a brave girl. It wasn't anything overly insane. Just something amusing thanks to my birthmark. Can we get a round of applause for Nan and one of the most creative threats I think I've ever heard? Like, seriously, I'm gonna remember that one. I could see why at first thought that this stranger might think that it was a tattoo, if it's just a little too perfectly shaped. But you know what? You should kind of give people the benefit of the doubt that they're not gonna be tattooing their baby. Like, worst case scenario, maybe they went to Disney World and it's like a spray-on henna tattoo or something. That's gonna be about the extent of it. Like the doc said, I'm sure she was just looking out for the baby, but come on, just mind your business. Entitled Karen seems to think my pool is just for general neighborhood use. My partner and I purchased the house next door to my best friend. I had lived with him for close to a decade since his kids were babies, so they viewed my house as an extension of theirs, and were in and out all day every day. I have a more flexible schedule than he and his wife, so I have them in the mornings, after school, and on days off of school. I had a pool in my yard, and because my friend's kids were still little, I installed a retractable cover and made sure it was always locked so they couldn't open it. My friend's yard had one of those wood fort climbing wall swing set deals and a large sandbox. Throughout the year, we spent most evenings outside grilling, drinking, and watching the kids play or swim or whatever. One summer day, I came home from work a little earlier than normal and started to prep for dinner. I heard a knock at my back door, which was odd, since my buddy's kids never knocked. I went to see who it was and discovered a mom and two kids who looked to be maybe 5 to 7 years old. As I opened the door, she informed me that her kids need to use the bathroom, and that I needed to come out and get the cover off my pool. I was confused and asked her to repeat herself, and she said that her kids needed to pee and that they were hot and bored playing in the sandbox, so I needed to open up my pool. I asked her why she was in my friend's yard and what made her think her kids were welcome to swim in my pool, or use my bathroom for that matter. She got really crabby and told me that she had moved into the house behind us and that she had watched my buddy's kids come over all the time and that I opened the pool for them. She insisted that since I was willing to open my pool for the kids next door, I should also open it for the children who lived behind me. I tried explaining the relationship between my best friend's family and mine. She claimed that it didn't matter that I had known them since birth and pretty much had helped raise them. I just needed to get to know her kids too and it would be okay. I told her no and closed the door on her. She spent a while knocking and fussing at me through the window and then had her kids pee in a planter on the side of the patio. When I still didn't react, she took her kids back into my friend's yard to play on the swings. I texted him to let him know what was going on. Right at the moment he was letting his 300+ pounds worth of newfies out into the yard without noticing the unwelcome visitors. The mom starts shrieking and climbs up into the fort, leaving both kids on the swings. She starts demanding that we put the dogs inside, and how dare my friend let his dogs out in his own yard when her kids are clearly playing there. He tells her to GTFO and calls the police. When the cops arrive, she puts on the whole waterworks about how her kids are just looking for friends, and my buddy's kids are somehow bullying her kids, even though they'd never met. She says that he invited her over just to let his dogs attack her children, and other crazy things. They eventually move her back onto her own property, then come back later to tell us they warned her about coming back. She lived in that house for almost a year before she and her husband divorced. During that year, I had to replace the lock over the pool cover controls 3 times, have a fencing company remove a gate at the back of my property that was meant to let the lawnmower through, and eventually pay a security company to come and check on my yard anytime we were going to be away for more than a few hours. We found her and her kids in our yards repeatedly, but she'd leave when we got home. What finally resolved the issue was my partner catching her in the pool. She told him she knew the man that owned the house and that he had told her it was okay to swim. He told her that he was married to the man that owned the pool and that it was not okay to swim. She apparently had a bad reaction to realizing she was immersing her sons in gay water. We didn't see that jerk again after that. It must feel kinda nice to have a problem resolved with homophobia instead of started. That's crazy the extent that you had to go to keep her out of your yard though. I would think installing a camera in the back and getting her on camera a few times and eventually charging her with trespassing would get her off your property though. And hey, it never hurts to have cameras. But that is a crazy sense of entitlement that she has on behalf of her kids, thinking that they can just use your pool. Sorry, lady, it's private property. I'm sure there's a community center or something around where you can go and use that pool. And there's probably lots of other kids around for your kids to make friends. Don't be going into your neighbor's backyard. And if you do and your neighbor says no, instructing your kids to pee on their plants probably isn't going to help resolve the issue the way you want. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. Put the playlist on in the background to finish listening to all the stories, linked at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, give Am I the Genius a shot, linked in the description as well. Either way, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.